Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Another bonus video for you this week, mostly because I realized I may have unintentionally misled you in my last bonus video where I showed off the faux Totally Not Yu-Gi-Oh cards that a childhood friend of mine and I made. Because at the time I said that the reason we made those is because we didn't have Yu-Gi-Oh cards, which at the time was true. Doesn't mean I never played Yu-Gi-Oh! I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually up until, basically until the end of 2005 when I graduated high school. I had some people I knew in high school that, played Yu-Gi-Oh! Got some cards, I played with them. I've never been in any sort of, tournament or anything, so, even back then, I'm sure this was not, a tournament legal deck. But I decided I'm going to show you guys my Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck. I do have more cards than this, I have a variety. But this is just the mishmash of various cards that I managed to put together into a functioning deck. Of course, I have deck sleeves. They're a little worn now. You got the blue, that's the main deck, and then I always put the red, my side deck in red. And that was mostly just because I never really used the side deck, but, it's just one of those ways where if I needed to swap something in to beat someone, I could just, swap them in and out real quick. And, God, it's amazing how small some of the text on these were. From what I hear, it only got worse in later years, the amount of text that they put on a card. But even look at this, you can't even really read that. Even when I'm, putting it right up to the screen, that's how tiny it is. But I got Chaos Sorcerer. Let's see here. Magician of Faith, that was a good one, because I pretty much focused my deck around being able to draw more cards, being able to neutralize my opponent's cards, really easy, by discard a card, destroy a monster, things like that. Or so being able to draw my deck, being able to neutralize their stuff, or make it virtually useless, and then having really cheap, powerful beat sticks, which seems like a very generic thing. It's like oh well, all Yu-Gi-Oh decks do that, to some degree. But mine was specifically it was kind of geared towards that efficiency of getting what I need, putting it out, and basically denying my opponent any sort of advantage. So I got 7 Tools of the Bandit for traps. Wave Motion Cannon. Send this card on the field to the graveyard during your main phase. Inflict damage to your opponent's life points equal to the number of standby phases that have passed after this card was activated times 1,000 points. So this was a nice one. I could just put it down, and they either had to waste resources to get rid of it, like a Mystical Space Typhoon, or they had to worry about it being on the field, and then I could just, let it sit there and then just blast it off. Mechanical Hound. While you have no cards in your hand, your opponent cannot activate spell cards. This was an interesting one, mostly because of the fact that, again, the way my deck was, I very rarely had, an actual hand. A lot of times, my stuff was either on the field, or in the graveyard, or in the deck. And it was all just revolving around, having almost nothing in my hand. Magic Jammer, very traditional one. Axe of Despair. Okay, this one I think is still overpowered. A monster equipped with this card increases attack by 1,000 points. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, if you offer one monster on your side of the field as tribute, this card returns to the top of your deck. My god, this was so powerful. And I had so many, a lot of my weaker monsters, I would put this bad boy on, and then suddenly I became a problem. Summon Skull. Okay, this was my favorite one, because I would always combine it with Witch of the Black Forest. I'd send her out, she would die, and then I'd always pull Summon Skull, because Summon Skull is a very efficient monster. You sacrifice one monster on your field, and then you summon him, and his attack is as strong as Dark Magician, so if I had to choose between the two, why wouldn't I just go with Summon Skull? Regeki Break. Discard one card from your hand to destroy a card in the field. Again, opponent has a problematic spell, trap, or monster. That's a good way to just, just say, hey, no, get rid of that. Nobleman of Crossout. Destroy one face-down monster and remove it from play. If the monster is a flip effect, both players must check their respective decks and remove all monsters of the same name. This is a good way to get rid of, those man-eater bugs or, any of those, or, God, there's a couple I have in here that are basically like the same as Man-Eater Bug, where it flips and is destroyed. Kuribo discards this card from your hand to make battle damage inflicted to your life points. To make battle inflicted to your life points by one of your opponent's monsters 0. This effect can be activated during your opponent's battle phase. So again, that's why I had him in here. Just if I need a little breathing room, drop a Kuribo. Here's a favorite one of mine. Adhesion Trap Hole. You can activate this card when your opponent successfully normal summons, flip summons, or special summons a monster. As long as that monster remains face-up on the field, the original attack of the monster is halved. I did have a Paladin of White Dragon. I'm trying to remember why. Like, God, okay, this is tiny. This is even tinier. Like, can you read that? Like, I know those here. Let me. I have like a little light here. Let me see if I can. Yeah, like, can you even read that? I can't even read that, and I'm like next to the dang thing. Here, hold on a second here. The monster can only be summoned with the ritual spell card, White Dragon Ritual. You must also offer monsters whose total star levels equal 4 or more as tribute from your field or hand. When this monster attacks a face-down defense position monster, destroy the face-down position monster immediately with this card's effect without flipping it face-up or damage calculation. You can special summon one Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand or your deck by offering this card as tribute during your main phase. Blue Eyes White Dragon cannot attack that turn. God dang, that is a lot to put on a card like that. Like, God, I need a magnifying glass for that. Yugioh Drakmord, basically you put it on a monster, and at the end of the second turn of that player's controlling monster, it gets destroyed. So that's a good one where if they have a powerful monster out, you put that on. Usually the way out for that is like they use it as a sacrifice for another monster. Which is fine, but again, at least at that point you're still dealing with one strong monster and not two strong monsters. Okay, here's a favorite one of mine. Absorbing Kid from the Sky. When this card destroys a monster and sends it to the graveyard as a result of battle, increase your life points by the level of the destroyed monster times 300. I like this card for several reasons. One, because I usually put this axe on it, so I had basically an instant 2300 monster that could destroy most creatures and give me life points times, 300 of its level. Which is also good. But also one of the people I played with, I swear to God, like, when I played this, like, it looked like him. Like, one of the people I played with, his name was Ping, he looked a little bit like this. I mean, didn't have quite the belly of this kid, but at the same time, it was like we often joke that it was just the Ping card. Graceful Charity, that's a classic one. Monster Reborn, again, very overpowered. How the amount of times where I would do something like Raigeki Break or Graceful Charity or anything that causes me to discard or sacrifice a monster, and I like you're saying, okay, like take a Yugioh Drakmord. Let's say my opponent had that and like put it on, one of my strong monsters. It's like, okay, this thing's gonna die. You use one of those effects to, one of my spell effects to destroy it. It goes to the graveyard. Monster Reborn. It's back. Boom. Witch of the Black Forest. I also mentioned because I use that mostly to summon summon Skull. Here's one. Dark Triceratops. When this card attacks with an attack that is higher than the defense of your opponent's defense position monster, inflict the difference as battle damage to your opponent's life point. So basically a piercing effect or a trample effect if you play MTG. I mostly had this because I love Triceratops. It's my favorite dinosaur, so I have it in there. Zombira the Dark. This card cannot attack a player directly. Each time this card destroys one monster as a result of battle, decrease the attack of this card by 200 points. So, imagine this. Again, I put this on the field. I don't have to sacrifice it. Now, sure, it gets weaker. But again, you put the Axe of Despair on it, and suddenly I have a 3100 creature. Like, honestly, that's something where you can destroy a Blue Eyes with that. Don't know how that compares to, like, modern. I've not played any modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, so I don't know how well the power scaling is on this. But again, this is one of those things where I'm sure, like, if you were to go back to, like, the 2025 rule set, a lot of these cards would probably be illegal. Because of something like this. Soul Exchange. Select one monster on your opponent's side of the field. When you offer your monster as tribute, offer the selected monster in place of one of your monsters during this turn. You cannot conduct your battle phase. But again, that was an easy one where, okay, my opponent summons his Blue Eyes. Okay, soul exchange. I sacrifice your monster and one of my monsters. Now I have my blue eyes out. Sangan, basically Witch of the Black Forest, but for attack instead of defense. Gyroid. This is one where it seems like a really stupid card, but listen to this. Once per turn, if this card would be destroyed as a result of battle, it is not destroyed. Damage calculation is applied normally. So that's something where you can put that face down. If your opponent only has one monster on their side of the field, like it's basically an unstoppable wall. You put this, it's not going to be destroyed as long as it's only being attacked by one monster. Now, the second he gets a second, creature out, that's when it becomes a problem. I do have a Jinzo that I got from a tin. My friend always called it a Tinzo, so I have a Tinzo. Mystical Space Typhoon, really good for getting rid of monsters. Wall of Illusion. The monster attacking this monster is returned to its owner's hand. Damage calculation applied normally. That one usually that one I usually try to use to get rid of stronger monsters. Because again, if you're sacrificing two monsters for your boss monster, it attacks that Wall of Illusion, it goes back to your hand. Well, now you have to get two more monsters out, and then you have to sacrifice them to bring it back onto the field. Gravekeeper's Guard, flip effect. Select one monster on your opponent's side of the field, regardless of position, and return it to your owner's hand. Again, another good one where, if you're getting attacked by something strong, it's good to have. Blast with Chain. After activation, this card is treated as an equipped magic card. Select one monster you control and equip it with this card to increase the attack of the selected monster by 500 points. When this card is destroyed by the effect of another card, select one card on the field and destroy it. So this is one where, again, like you could put this on the Absorbing Kid, and that Absorbing Kid would become an 1800, which, for a monster you don't have to sacrifice for, making it an 1800 is like, that's a nice beat stick to have. And then, your choice is, okay, you either have to get rid of the monster or get rid of the card. If you're at the point where you can't really summon monsters because I have this 1800 creature just, destroying them as they come, the second it's okay, so you got to use like a Mystical Space Typhoon on it. So you use the Mystical Space Typhoon on the equipped card, well, then I get to destroy one of your cards. Again, it's a very good one to have. Mahavilo. In addition to the effects of equipped cards, the attack of this monster is increased by 500 points for each card equipped to this monster. So again, you put Axe of Despair on this guy. He goes up to 2550. And then because it's an equipped card, that's now 3050. So again, that right there, it's like an easy one. You don't have to sacrifice for it. All you need is the equipped card. And especially because I can use Axe of Despair's effect to bring it back to the top of my deck, I can then put it on another monster. So even if something happens to Mahavilo, I can sacrifice like some piddly face down monster and then put it on an Absorbing Kid. Change of Heart, very classic. Pot of Greed, to this day no one knows what it does. Just know it, it's a mystery. I don't even know what it does when it's in my deck. Let's see, I got a Harpy's Feather Duster. That, again, really overpowered card, the ability to just say, oh no, all your traps and spells are gone, which especially if your opponent is on the back foot, if your opponent's on the back foot when it comes to summoning monsters, like let's say I have my Blue Eyes out, it's the, big 3000 beat stick. The only way to get something out like that is to really, you got to use a spell or a trap card to kind of even the playing field, either by, stopping Blue Eyes and, long enough to get more monsters out, or by powering up your other monster. So the ability to go, no, not only do you not have that thing that can equalize the game, but you have nothing that can equalize the game. That's powerful. Again, I'm pretty sure this was banned at the time. I was playing on 2005. Okay, so Silent Assassin is another one of those flip and destroy a monster. And then when you, let's see, when this card is suddenly directly from your hand to the graveyard, return one flip effect monster from your graveyard to your hand. So again, like I have things like, the Graceful Charity, the Raigeki Break, or like any of those discard effects. You discard it, you get that effect, and then you can get a flip effect back. So, you can use that to get Magician of Faith back. You bring her back, you get her flipped, you get your Monster Reborn back. Malevolent Nuzzler. Monster equipped with this card increases attack by 700 points. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you may pay 500 life points. This card returns to the top of your deck. So again, the ability to up a monster by 700 points is really powerful. Here was my favorite one, because this is the one that always pissed off my friends. Wall of Revealing Light, a continuous trap card. When you activate this card, pay any multiple of 1,000 life points. None of your opponent's monsters with attack equal to or less than the life points you paid can attack. So imagine this. I get this first turn in the game. I put a magic jammer down to protect it. So, I put it down. Next turn, I don't know, something happens where, my opponent can, summon his blue eyes on the first turn. I activate this. I can pay half my life points. I can pay 4,000 life points. And do you know how hard it is to get a monster that's over 4,000 life points on the field? It's pretty dang hard. The monsters that are... Oh, excuse me. The monsters that are that strong are intentionally difficult to summon. But now I can just play one card and stop them. And the only way to get rid of this is by some effect that destroys traps or, cards like that. Like something like a Harpy's Feather Duster or a Mystical Space Typhoon. So it's one of those, and again, I have the counter. I have the Magic Jammer down. So until he can get that down, I have a way to stop him. And really stop, most monsters that, he could possibly put out. Princess of Tsurugi inflicts 500 points of direct damage to your opponent's life points for each magic and trap card your opponent has on the field. So again, if you combine this, you put this down, you flip it, you flip it your next turn, and then you do Harpy's Feather Duster. So that right there, you're doing damage, and then you're getting rid of all your opponent's things. It's these large sweeping abilities that, it's one of the reasons why I actually don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Anymore, or haven't tried to get into modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is because these large sweeping abilities are so powerful. And then the game has always kind of had this struggle with the power creep of it. Like all games kind of do, especially when it comes to TCGs. But especially with Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh's about all those big sweeping power moves that can just turn the tide of a duel. But it's one of those things where it's these things are overpowered. This is an overpowered deck, at least for the time of 2005. I don't know how the rules have changed, because I know some cards have been banned, some cards have been unbanned, some cards have had errata put on them. Breaker the Magical Warrior. When this card is normal summon, put one spell counter on it, max 1. Increase attack of monster by 300 points for each spell counter on this card. Also, you can remove one spell counter from this card to destroy one spell or trap card on the field. So 300 points plus a 1600 attack means that without a sacrifice, I have a 1900 creature, and if something happens to where there is a spell or a trap card that I need to get rid of, and I don't need him to be an 1900 creature anymore, I can drop him down to 1600 and destroy any trap or magic card. Again, that's really powerful. Get the Ritual of White Dragon, of course. Dark Hole, again, good reset card. Unless they have something like a Magic Jammer to counter it. This is probably one of the only ways you can really counter the blue eye. Something like having a blue eyes on the field and you have no monsters. Pretty much if you do this, you don't want any of your monsters on the field. And it's really good if your opponent has a bunch of monsters on the field, because then you're really kind of damaging his deck. And then lastly, Sonic Bird. When this card is normal summoned or flip summoned, you can select one ritual card from your deck, add to your hand, show your deck. So that's how I'd be getting that White Paladin Dragon out. So that's the main deck. For the side deck, I had Exhausting Spell. Don't know why I had that. I don't think I ever really encountered spell counters. Burst Stream of Destruction. I think this is a little out. Again, I don't think I've updated my deck in so long. But Burst Stream of Destruction, you need a Blue Eyes to use. I don't have a Blue Eyes in my deck. I don't think I have one in my. Yeah, I don't have a Blue Eyes in the side deck either. So again, very outdated. Wabaku, classic card. 7 Tools of the Bandit. Pay 1,000 of your life points to negate the activation of a trap card and destroy it. So again, if I have the Wall Revealing Light and they try to use Raigeki Break, you do that 7 Tools of the Bandit. So again, even if you paid 4,000 for your Wall of Revealing Light, you stop the negation of the Wall of Revealing Light with 7 Tools of the Bandit, or you stop the destruction of it, that's 1,000 life points. That's still 3,000 life points you have, and your opponent's monster still can't touch you. Scapegoat, another classic card. Dark Magician. This is actually, I think, my favorite Dark Magician. I'm not really fond of the purple one. I do really like the red edgelord one that I think his name was Arcana used in the Battle City arc. Mystical Plasma Zone. I do have a lot of dark monsters. Swords of Revealing Light, also a classic one. Griffin Wing, pretty much the specific counter to the Harpy's Feather Duster. Light of Intervention, again, if you have a opponent that likes to play a lot of face-down flip monsters, this is going to be the way to counter that. Ryu Koki. If this monster battles with a monster that is a warrior or spellcaster type monster, destroy that monster at the end of the damage step. So basically, it's a creature that has Death Touch for warriors and spellcasters. Curse Seal of the Forbidden Spell. Discard one spell card from your hand to negate the activation and the effect of a spell card and destroy it. Your opponent cannot activate spell cards of the same name, including the spell card destroyed by this card's effect during the rest of the duel. So again, a good way to protect that Wall of Revealing Light is to use this. And, even if I throw my own Mystical Space Typhoon away for this, Mystical Space Typhoon is a pretty powerful one that a lot of people used back in 2005 to, eliminate, a very specific spell or trap card. So again, a good way to protect that Wall of Revealing Light. Card Destruction, a very classic one. Xecryo Armor. You can only activate this card when your opponent declares an attack. Destroy attacking monster. Again, good way to deal with those monsters that you get those powerful beat sticks and maybe you don't have a lot of monsters out, or something like if you had this Old Vindictive Mage. So let's say your opponent has their big boss monster out and another beat stick. So flip effective Old Vindictive Mage. Destroys one monster in the field regardless of position. So you do that. You do Xecryo Armor. The attacking monster is destroyed. Old Vindictive Mage is flipped. And then you destroy the other monster. Your opponent now has no monsters. And you still have at least a defense position Old Vindictive Mage that can, act as a meat shield. So yeah, that's a... And again, I have a binder full of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. But these were the ones that I mostly played with. Again, a little bit dated because obviously I have some Blue Eyes stuff in there and my deck doesn't have a Blue Eyes. I probably won't ever get into modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Because my understanding is that it's just gotten so complex because now there's Link summons, there's Pendulum summons, there's another type, I can't remember what the name of it is. But yeah, it's just gotten so complex with all the rules. It's I feel like if I went in there, I wouldn't know how to play. I really wouldn't. And I think that's one of the sad things about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that, it feels like... here's the thing, with Magic the Gathering. I dropped off of Magic the Gathering years ago. I still have a bunch of cards. My decks are nowhere near up to snuff. I did find a friend to play with for a while before he moved. And I realized that one of my decks, for some reason, only had, 10 land cards in it. I don't know how that happened, because that's how long I hadn't played. But the thing is that Magic the Gathering is such a surprisingly simple game. You can go away for years and come back and still know how to play. Because even if you don't know any of the new keywords that they have out, there's almost always an explanation on there. It's not like a Yu-Gi-Oh card where I would have to look up what a pendulum summon is in order to pendulum summon. And I wouldn't even know how to do that. And so it's to me, it's if I were to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh, I would have to do a whole bunch of research just to learn how to play. I would have to learn how to play all over again. Whereas, now, I can go into MTG Arena. I can get a bunch of cards that I've never seen before in my life, and I can know how to play. And part of that is that, they have, the little, the scroll over, you put your mouse over the card, and it says, oh, here's what this keyword means. And even then, it's usually something very simple. I think everyone in MTG knows Trample, but they might not know Survey. But again, surveying is still a very simple mechanic. It's not something like pendulum summoning or link summoning or anything like that. I think the other big thing is that Yu-Gi-Oh! I think doesn't have a great resource system. I think one of the reasons why Magic the Gathering works so well is because you have that resource system to at least limit or mitigate how much and what you can do in a turn. Whereas Yu-Gi-Oh, those limits are kind of off. Well, like there are limits to what you can do, but at the same time, like you can still do quite a bit. So the result is that it's like that. That's why again, Yu-Gi-Oh. I like the way a friend described it to me. Is Yu-Gi-Oh is kind of like wrestling, and that it's about these big power moves that excite the audience. Whereas Magic the Gathering is more like chess, in that it's about building a very strategic deck and managing your resources and making decisions about how you're going to use those resources. So yeah, so those are my Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Again, just a little bit of childhood Corey stuff. Again, like I highly doubt this deck is tournament legal by any stretch of the imagination. I'd be surprised if it was, and even if it was, I'd be really surprised if it was even remotely competitive. Because again, like some of the cards I see these days are insane. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, little bit of a peek into young Corey's past. Thank you for joining me again, and as always, keep doing what makes you awesome. Thank you very much, and goodbye.